under
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll take the time for public comment. Are there any public comment sheets, Chief?
There's none. Anybody have a public comment? I think everybody here. DJ, do you want to identify yourself? How about DJ on? He's not unmuting.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the June 2nd meetings that were included in the meeting minutes that were included in the packet.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So sorry, guys.
No. So you can let the minutes show that Lori joined at 7:10. Terry, any comments on the motion or the second to approve the minutes?
No comments.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say the same. The minutes are passed unanimously. Report of Public Safety Committee officers. We'll start with the chairperson. Lori, do you have anything to report?
I do not.
Committee members, I actually have two things I would like to get added into the minutes. Last week on Thursday night at 12:30 a.m. I left my garage door open accidentally. The police came to the door, rang the bell, reminded us, and I was very happy and appreciative of that extra service with what's going on. And actually I didn't wake up, my son did, so he took care of it. It was well done, I appreciate that very much. The second item, I just wanted to let the Public Safety Committee and Chief Tony know that I appreciate their efforts and help with the Spike Red fundraiser. Chief Tony helped me stay in compliance and follow all of the Dane County guidelines. And while I wasn't always in full agreement with the Dane County order, I was very appreciative and had a less stressful fundraiser with the extra help and service. So I appreciate it. It went very well. It was a smaller, safer event. It was actually more profitable than we've ever done. So greatly appreciate it, Chief. Thank you.
That's great.
Any other member reports?
Yeah, this is Kevin, and I will also add a comment that I've received from, and I mentioned it to Chief Tony prior to the meeting, but captured in the minutes is appreciation and gratitude and kudos to the Cross Plains Police Department for the response of some of the recent incidents. There's the ongoing communication with those impacted has spread in terms of the appreciation and the high quality of service that was done related to that incident. So that was provided to me directly from three of, I'm not sure how many victims there were at least 5. So at least 3 of those did reach out to me, as they're all friends of ours. But nice job, Chief Tony and the department.
Reports of first responders. EMS chief, not here.
Diane is on. Diane, you're up.
Hi, it's Diane Meinholz, and I'm reporting for Erica Mabry, who is the chief of Cross Plains Area EMS. She did want me to let you know that really not much has changed in regards to the COVID. EMS members are still following protocols as outlined by Dane County and Cross Plains EMS. We have not experienced any increase in COVID positive patient transports at this time, which is a good thing. So people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. We do have a new initiative. Cross Plains Area EMS has been busy training on high performance CPR. And we're looking to cross train with our police and fire department once we have all of our members and we're ready to go with that. We will be bringing it forward to the police and fire so they know what to see on scene to help us out. And that's a whole Dane County initiative. So everybody in Dane County is going to be doing CPR the exact same way. In September, we, as EMS, Cross Plains EMS, we will be learning about and training on interosseous venous access devices. Because of the level of what we are at, we've already had this available to us. We just have not had our medical director approve of it, and we will be, the skill is now required by all of the state of Wisconsin for our license level, and will be one more tool that we can use on a high acuity call. So we'll be practicing on that in September. So we're busy training as best as what we can and as safely as what we can. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cross Plains Fire Chief, is he on?
I don't think so, but there's a DJ on. I don't know if this is a representative. I didn't hear from them.
That's usually their chief or Crowgate.
Yeah.
Okay, Cross Plains Police Chief.
Okay. So yeah, we have been extremely busy. And I actually have a little bit of a report. I'm working on initiatives so we could have monthly reports so you guys can see kind of what we have, what's been going on and those kind of things. I'm working through our record management system to get those reports. So I'm still kind of working through that stuff, but just some highlights of things that we've been dealing with currently. The animal complaints, just this month we've had 2 animal bites, which is throughout the year we've had 6 total. So this month we're still experiencing some bite situations. We did have a couple residential burglaries, which is what was mentioned by Kevin. We had 2 burglaries in town and 5 thefts from autos. We have solved all those cases. We were able to make an arrest. I actually assigned that investigation to myself, so I was part of the initial investigation. Then we had a strong armed robbery that you guys probably haven't heard too much about, but it happened at the Piggly Wiggly parking lot. And so we were able to identify the suspect in that case, and that's going to the DA's office. He had taken off before we got there, but we were able to identify him, and so we know we'll have that solved. Other things of information, a couple of tidbits of information is our information cases are way up. I'm a big proponent of working with the community, so obtaining information is really, really important, and you can do that by simply being connected with the community. So for instance, same month last year, there was 7 cases of information gathering. In comparison to this year, this month, 26 cases. So that's the difference between really being highly, involved in getting information and working with the community. That's the flip side of it, which helps us then solve big cases because you're getting that response.
Does that mean the response from the community?
Yeah, there's just a lot more community involvement with policing issues. And so that's really what you want to work for as a police leader. You want to get that information gathered from the community and have that really good positive relationship. So the information gets to us sooner than later. The other things that we've seen a big increase is just reporting of suspicious activities, suspicious people, suspicious vehicles. So in comparison to this current month, we've had 7 suspicious activity complaints, 3 suspicious people, and 3 suspicious vehicle complaints. In comparison to last year, we had 0, 0, 0. So that just tells you that we're out there and getting people to. Now, none of these things might have produced some information or might have just been simple nothing, just a person driving around in the neighborhood. But because of that, people become more vigilant of their surroundings. So when we have big cases like these thefts or burglaries, you tend to get more information quicker because people are used to calling the police and reporting suspicious stuff. So those are the initiatives that I've really been working on. The other thing is take into account, when I first got here, one of the big things that I was getting was that there's just a lot of traffic violations. Speeding, going through stop signs, those kind of things. So I want you to know that I've taken that seriously. I've relayed that to the staff. So for instance, year to date, so starting from January when I took over to now, we have had 174 traffic stops. So that's a high volume when you compare it to last year's total traffic stops were 94. So we've almost doubled our traffic enforcement and traffic contacts. So my philosophy in policing is simple. What the community asks for is what we need to do. We serve the community, and so that's the way I will guide it all the time. So that's kind of just a very short report. I do plan on having these monthly as I get better at working these out and actually distributing them to the committee as part of your packet. I'm just kind of working through the bugs of how that all is going to work. And then my plan is in January of every year is to give a yearly report to you guys and to the village board so they know kind of where we're at in different initiatives, because I'm working on all kinds of other initiatives that aren't just strictly enforcement and things like that. So that's my report in a nutshell. That's all I have.
Just a follow-up question, and for clarification, I know that in the newspaper article when you were quoted, one of the topics was around report to us first versus social media.
Mm-hmm.
Just can you expand on that a little bit? Or is it unreported, or some people just go there first?
Yep. So what's happened is what we're seeing is an increase in reporting to us social media wise, because we're not having that day-to-day contact. The doors are kind of closed and people have to call and those kind of things. So we're seeing an increase in people sending us either emails to the webpage or on Facebook to report things. And that is not monitored 24/7. So, you know, I might get it or somebody might see it, but it's not timely. So for instance, I'll give you a for instance, ATV violations, we have received some complaints, probably about 3 this month, maybe 4. All of them have come days later. So if there is a violation, there's no way that we can actually resolve it, because by the time you get to it, who knows who did that? Or, you know, it's just an ATV violation. If we get the call, then maybe we could actually intercept it. Maybe it is a violation, maybe it's not, you know, those kind of things. So that's just one of many incidents. What I'm afraid of is that people will think that we're monitoring that 24/7, and then they see, and I just had one. So I had a person send me an email and say that she was followed by a vehicle multiple times around a park. And she said, I didn't know who to report it to. So she sent me, I think, you know, we're developing good relationships so people feel comfortable, but it would have been nice to get that right away. So that way we could have sent an officer to that location and find out what's this person's deal. You know, maybe he is lost, or maybe he's, you know, being awkward and something we need to deal with. So that's what we wanted to address. You know, it was coupled in the article with regards to the big case that we had in town here recently with, you know, with the shot fired and those kind of things, which I think it just goes to show that we don't want somebody reporting, hey, I think somebody broke into my garage last night, because by then they're long gone. So that's kind of where that came from.
Sure.
So.
Just curious too, the other question that I was asked is non-emergency number relative to emergency number, kind of after hours.
Mm-hmm.
If people are truly aware of what that procedure, or, you know, kind of what is the protocol there.
So obviously if you have an emergency, you can always call 911, even if it's not emergency. But I would say somebody following you around in the park is an emergency. I mean, you don't know what their intentions are. And unfortunately, even though we do live in one of the safest cities in Wisconsin, things happen, which are obvious, you know, just we're peaking at different crimes. So you just have to use your common sense to say, okay, I'm not going to try to dig for a number. However, the other protocol would be then to call our non-emergency number here at the office. Now, Monday through Friday, typically from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., some of the administrative secretary is here so she can handle, you know, take those calls. And that's a 798-4100 number. If she happens to step away from her desk or is not around or it's after 3 o'clock, chances are the phone's going to ring multiple times and then go through a process. So the next process, it'll go to a cell phone that's in our squad car that we usually carry on us. But if we're out at a call, which normally there's only one officer on, so if they're out at a call, they're not going to answer that cell phone. So then it would relay to dispatch. I'm trying to get rid of the middle man, if you will. I'm going to try to work on, if it's after hours, it directly goes to dispatch because then you automatically get the call. And I'm going to be working on that.
Somebody always answers.
Somebody always answers. And then dispatch will ask those questions and they will then relay it to the officer, not only by radio, but also by computer. So when we're in our squad car, it'll all come up in the computer as to what is going on, what location, vehicles, and everything that's pertinent to that case. So I'm going to try to bypass the cell phone in the squad, if possible. I mean, I think it's still a good tool because we use it to make phone calls and people call us on that number. But it kind of delays. And I've actually talked to a couple of people this month who have said, I've hung up. Like, I'll just say forget it, and then I'm gonna send an email.
I think that's what
Yeah.
I was hearing on it too.
Yeah.
So just 4100 though, not emergency.
Yeah. 4100, and then you can always call dispatch and we can provide that information. There is a non-emergency dispatch number where you can call, but again, that's not a number that's so easily remembered like 4100. But it's something we can definitely provide. But I think if somebody's not in the office and we can just route it directly to dispatch, forward it on, then it'll bypass all of that. People can still just call the 4100 number because an officer may be at the office and then he'll answer or she'll answer the phone. But this will kind of alleviate that problem, I think. But I'm working on it because it's been something that's been in place for well over almost a decade. So, okay.
Tony, could you give a little more detail on the strong arm robbery and the 2 burglaries and the 2 thefts from auto? A little more detail.
Sure. Okay. So without providing a whole lot of detail, I will give you a general sense of everything. Okay. So we'll start with the easier one, which is a strong arm robbery. That happened to be 2 gentlemen who were exchanging property, and one tried to rob the other. So, you know, kind of like a lot of these buy, sell, trade things. And so that's what that ended up.
So what constitutes the strong arm part of that?
He tried to steal his wallet from his hand.
Okay.
So it was an actual robbery.
Okay.
So we were able to identify the person through an investigation. Again, I was assigned to that. Scott was assigned, but I happened to be in the office, so I went and helped him with that case, and we were able to resolve it. So that's going to be moving through to the DA's office. The other case happened to be that we had been dealing with a couple of thefts since Sunday at a different location. So we were vigilant that this could potentially keep happening. So we were trying to be strategic of when to position more officers, and knowing that these kind of things sometimes work with multiple players who kind of keep an eye on the police and where they're going and that kind of thing. We kind of knew that. But finding them is really hard. You know, you could even watch them drive past and wave at them because there might not be anything suspicious about them. So the call came in as somebody was caught in a garage, and the homeowner confronted them. They fled, and he responded by shooting off a round in the air. They responded by shooting also. So there's no indication that they were shooting at one another. I think our investigation has kind of revealed that I think the homeowner was more of a reaction of the stress of what was happening, and also to let them know that he was harmed. Not how many more were out in the community. We saw a lot of videos, so their process, and this is the way they do it, is they show up with a vehicle and people just jump out of the car and they go all over. And if the doors are locked, they just keep going. They just keep moving strategically through a community. Their whole point is to get into the car quickly and leave as quickly as possible. So that's exactly what was happening. They then, once they get in the car, then they'll get the garage door and open that and then go into your garage and even possibly into your home. Most of the time they open the door to the garage and just look in and whatever they see quickly. They don't go around looking around knowing what's inside. So in this case, that's exactly what happened, and we believe that they then shot, whether it was in the car or shot out also to let him know that they were armed as well and to not pursue. We actually almost intercepted that vehicle head on as we were dealing with another case. We were coming and they were leaving. We had deputies in the area. We tried to capture them, but it was impossible. They were gone in the darkness. They didn't have the lights on in the car, so they just kind of scooted out of town. Video helped us put things together. Conversations between myself and the captain of the Dane County Sheriff's Department helped kind of move this up to the top of the list, and within, I believe it was within 8 hours, they were captured in that stolen vehicle. So we were able to resolve it. It could have been a lot messier than what it was. Once they were captured, we were able to put together the stuff that was in that vehicle, connected them to town to all the different thefts. So at this point, we've recovered about 85% of everything that was taken. There's still stuff missing, but you know, during those 8 hours, who knows what they did with some of that stuff. But that's the gist of those two cases.
Okay, thank you. So the 2 burglaries and the 2 thefts from auto those are related then?
Yeah, there was 5, so they're all related.
Okay, and then I understood there was a 3rd person involved in the garage invasion. What have they captured the 3rd one yet? Or is he...
We actually believe there's 5, and we have 2 are in custody. 3rd one has been identified, and we still are looking for a potential. Well, we know there's a driver. We haven't been able to find that person yet, and there might be a 5th because there might have been 4 actually running around. So we haven't identified those, and we may never. They're probably not just a group of 5. It's usually a lot larger group, and so they may not even have known who was in the car at this specific time. You know.
Sounds like it was pretty well organized.
Yeah, they're very organized, and they've gotten a lot more organized. Even after those things happened, Middleton got hit 2 nights afterwards, so it's happening all the time. And they'll steal cars, so that way, if you get a plate, you can't identify them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Do you have recommendations that you'd like to say, or is that going to be in your newsletter?
I think we'll be addressing it in the newsletter. I think Jay was going to put something in the newsletter, but yeah, it's just closing the garage door, keeping garage doors out of the cars and locking your cars, because we saw lots of video of them grabbing doors, and as soon as they saw they were locked, they just moved on. They're looking for only unlocked doors because their time is counted too. They can't predict when an officer is going to come through town, or a deputy or whatever. So yeah.
Do you want to take back over where we have committee discussion around item 1?
Yep. Discussion and possible action regarding the traffic issues on Eulalia Street and Lewis Street. This was brought to us at the village board meeting. One of the homeowners on Eulalia Street in Lewis is just very concerned about the traffic that is speeding through that area. And it was a concern being that the kids, and obviously that's residential area that and that street is just really
It's small. It's
a
pretty-
very small street, and driving down, I drove down there and it's,
So I was present during that meeting and I did talk to the complainant after the fact, because we're not getting any calls. I looked at the history of our calls and we're not getting any calls of speeders through there. On that, one of those photographs that shows Officer Cyber's home, I spoke to him and he says, no, there isn't really speeders. It's just very congested. So people come up to it at 25 and then kind of hit the brakes because they're coming around that corner. So it seems like people are flying, but it's more a perception of speeding. There probably is some pretty close, encounters because it's so close. So I didn't again talk to the complainant. I went and talked to a couple neighbors. I've also received an email, which I forwarded to you guys from Bill. I talked to Public Facilities Director Jerry Gray and about this issue, and everybody says the same thing. It's just too many cars there. Jerry was, he says, I'm all for putting yellow across the street. You can see a little bit of the yellow that's already there. It's right next to a fire hydrant. If we made this a no parking, then it would just open the street for that curb, so that way people couldn't park there. And then there's driveways up here where people could park their vehicles if they need be, those kind of things. So the neighbor that sits, if you see on this first, I didn't take a picture of their home, obviously, for privacy, but this home here, she said specifically, there's just too many cars. And so she says, as I'm sitting there, she can see where it's a tight corner as it is. So probably, and again, talking to Jerry, I think that makes the most sense is that, wherever he thinks we could make it yellow. He also says it's a problem for snow removal. So during snow removal time, he sometimes he'll clean just as much as he can, and then once somebody moves, then he'll come back through. So it becomes an issue so I can't even imagine what it would be like during heavy snowfalls if it's already a tight squeeze. So I provided all the photographs that I had. So, or 17 photographs, basically. It kind of gave you a little bit of a picture of what that looks like. But the recommendation from the people that didn't file a complaint and from Jerry is to put yellow on the curb to have nobody parking there, and it'll just open that up a little more.
Well, I would definitely support that, being familiar with that corner too, with the property that we have down there. It's line of sight as well as just, the traffic and speed. You are blind, and I know I've rolled around that corner many times, even going slow, very slow, and a bike or somebody is right around the corner and I have no idea they're there. So if I had been moving even close to the speed limit, it would have been a dangerous situation. So, makes sense.
Would you like a motion?
I think you'll need it, and then
I will make a motion to follow the recommendation of adding no parking in yellow on the curbs there to limit parking and also reduce the hazard.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion, Terry or Lori?
No, sounds good.
No.
do you need to do a roll call?
no,
You can just do all in
just
favor.
all in favor.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, number 2.
So discussion and possible action regarding additional locations for the pedestrian crossing, rapid response flashing beacons. So this came up, if we remember, on Bourbon, we gave approval for the, by the fire station there. And then, it was also brought up, from Jay that the crosswalk by Kelcher over to Weaver is pretty congested. And he thought that we should look at possibly having a flashing light there versus where we approved on Bourbon, and to look at other locations that might also need the flashing crosswalks. I felt that we really needed the one on Bourbon.
Yeah.
After discussion. So, you know, after it coming to public safety, that we felt that it was needed there. And he just thought that we should also look at other areas around the community that may need it, and especially there at the Weaver Kelcher.
Yeah, the one on Bourbon is going up. I mean, that was agreed by us, and I'd already talked to Jerry. He's gonna have that one up. There's two other ones going up over by the school on Church Street and Bear, that they've already put the cement down. They're just waiting for it to cure so they can bolt them down. They already have those in place. The other one will be something in the near future, get that one on Bourbon Road. I think Jay kind of wanted us to see if we've looked at other locations. Now, those things aren't cheap. They're $9,000. So I talked to Jerry, and specifically in the location where Jay has mentioned, that was already looked at, and it didn't go up there. It's up a street, and that's because DOT didn't approve it. And Jerry believes that they probably won't approve it even now, that it might, not be approved. So it won't have, although we may want it, it may not get approved. So I guess if the committee wants it, we can look into getting it approved, but it sounded like when they did project, the highway project on 14, that was mentioned as a location and it wasn't approved. And this is just historical data that I've learned, but I don't know much more about it.
What is your consensus? I mean, you guys sit there a lot up by the mobile and looking down that.
Yeah.
I mean, I am over at the Century 21 office, and I feel a lot of people stop for the pedestrians. I mean, it is congested, but I feel like it's never been an issue as far as what I see when I'm going through there.
Yeah, I mean, we make a lot of stops there. There's people just speed right through there, and then, or they try to, as you got that turn on Mill Creek Parkway, they'll instead of turn, they'll cut people off and try to. So we've made a lot of stops there, but really, if people have hit the button and those yellow flashing lights are on, people do stop. I mean, they'll see the lights, and especially if we're there, we hardly ever see anybody blow through that while we're sitting right in that spot. I mean, it's always a good thing to have these things. It's just, at what expense, and is it even going to be approved? So I think, we have to weigh those options. I think Jay was kind of just questioning how we came up with Bourbon and not those other spots. So, and I think the answer that we gave him was, well, we're not getting complaints on the other spots. We're getting complaints on Bourbon, where the daycare center is, and, even talks about stop signs and those kind of things. So
I do think, I don't know if there's a sign solution or something, but I do think during congested times or rush times, and it's not as much now, but where it merges, there's sometimes a lack of knowledge or awareness of the pedestrians.
Yeah.
I think there was a complaint this week, at least on Facebook, about a couple of cars racing right there to try to get in front of each other. So I don't know if there's a way to be a little more aware, like a pedestrian.
I think there's multiple warnings though before you get there to merge over, because I've actually watched video of an officer trying to explain to the person why he was issuing a citation, and the gentleman was saying, I didn't know, and all of a sudden I'm here, and I just thought it'd be easy to cut over. And he's like, you had three signs that said move over, because there's some, you can't pass on that side. So, I mean, you can oversign, things too, but I think it's more education and getting the complaints. Like I saw that actually, I'm trying to friend as much people as I can, just so I can, you know, kind of, so people can get to know me, but also for that reason. And someone actually tagged me on that post, so I was on there. So we are dealing with it when we get those kind of complaints and things like that.
And I guess I didn't notice if there are pedestrian signs that cross at that crosswalk,
I'm not sure.
if that might be an option to
That might be
put.
an option.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, that might be an option.
I'd rather look at a sign option before $9,000 or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever on the lights.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Maybe
So
we
we
could
look at
do
a
is-
sign option or.
Yeah, maybe we could definitely look at that, see what else is there. I guess there's almost have to be a pedestrian crossing sign. I can't picture it.
I
right now.
can't picture it either that there is a sign there.
It's hard because there's a lot going on at that moment. People aren't, you know, always looking at signs, they're looking in their side mirrors and rear view mirrors and everything else.
But maybe what we could do is throughout the month, now that this has been a topic, maybe we can all just kind of be vigilant and see if there's other locations. And if you think there is, then maybe we can put it back on the
One
agenda.
other one, I mean, just to throw it out there is, there's two that I often think of when we walk it off. And it's, one of them is crossing by the old pharmacy, across the street toward, the wine bar,
Mhm.
or toward, I guess the other stone house that's for sale,
Mhm.
or property. So people coming from the coffee shop wanting to cross toward that direction. There is that cut through to the creek right there too,
Mhm.
by those apartments. So, you know, looking at down the road for some of the infill and future development of maybe 1 to 2 to possibly even 3 of those business properties there, that probably should be a spot that we kind of earmark for consideration. With traffic picking up and some of these businesses doing well. The only other one is, and it was brought up to your point, Chief, in the 14 planning was at Center Street. So by State Bank there, and over to the new Xander Apartments there.
Mhm.
A lot of people do park in the bank parking lot on weekends and on Center Street to go over to Coach's Club. And then there are a lot of school-age kids, less of an issue obviously right now during lockdown, but school-age kids that are in the Xander Apartments that are walking to Park School, and they do cross right there.
There is a,
There's not a flasher there, it's across from Coach's is where the flasher is,
right,
down by the implement.
so you're thinking,
This is Center Street.
Center Street.
which
One
is
block.
One
two,
block up.
one block
One
up.
block.
One block up. So they either have to walk down to in front of Coach's, then hit it and come in kind of the back way to the school. But most kids will take the shortest route, which is directly across from the apartments where they're in straight line of sight to the school.
I guess, I mean, I'm just thinking, being a driver, if school's on, would it be better to have designated, you have to walk up here, you have to cross here? Otherwise, we're talking almost every street, we're gonna have
Yeah, part of it is,
crosswalks.
I would like to see kids walk on sidewalks. So that is in front of the bank there, on Center Street is a sidewalk.
Mhm.
Where there is not a sidewalk though is where they're down by the Kelcher's implement where the actual flasher is. There's not a formal sidewalk there for kids to walk on so they can get across. Then they would have to come down in front of the bank on the sidewalk and then
Mhm.
so they're kind of going down a block, coming back a block.
So would it be an option to change?
I don't know. There was some reasons why that was put in at the time. There was
Incident.
an incident, yeah.
There
Mhm.
was an accident.
Ultimately-
Yeah, a horrible
Yeah,
accident there.
horrible one, yeah.
Right,
So I don't know, it's a tough area, there's also a curve right there and people pick up speed as they're coming through the lights, and start heading toward the straightaway.
mhm.
So, it's an area that I would keep an eye on and I have
Maybe we
concerns
can put
every day
that,
since I live on the corner there.
put
Mhm.
that on the agenda for next month, for Center Street and Xander, that makes sense, and maybe
Mhm.
let's see if we can get that approved. I mean, that would be, I mean, it does have a sidewalk for kids to just walk to the school, so, that would make sense as another location.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for next month, just keep it on the agenda and look, have us take a look, but also have your staff take a look when they're out and about.
Over the next month.
Sure they see
Yep.
a lot more than we do.
And this is something also, DOT will do a
study,
yeah, to see like how many maybe that we should add down the main.
I think they have to approve, right?
I don't know if this location they had to approve, but the specific one that Jay was talking about,
Yeah,
there was some approval necessary. I don't know why that, because the one where it was placed, they didn't need approval at that location. So it's obviously not all the way down Main Street. It must have to do with something else.
okay.
Somebody need a
I'm not sure what
stoplight
that
maybe
is.
or something.
Well, I think the DOT approved all of those when the reconstruction was going on.
Okay,
That was all part of that plan.
okay. So we may even need to get approval even for the Center Street one. So I guess, I don't know.
My guess is you're gonna need approval for DOT for all of them,
So,
except the Bourbon one.
Okay. Well, I'll ask Jerry and I'll bring a report back to the committee. Okay.
All right, future items of discussion.
Besides this one, I'll add that to the agenda for next time.
Okay,
Can we get clarification on I'm guessing they're the new signs. I know I brought up that one topic related to crossing KP, crossing the stream on KP from Main Street toward Bourbon.
Okay.
And I know I talked about that being a tight bridge and a pinch point there. There's a sign on both sides that say no crossing, no pedestrian crossing.
that'd be a good one to check in with Jerry on too, because there's supposed to be a project
Yeah.
and a bridge improvement.
Right.
I don't know if that's.
My understanding
on the
is
table.
he's taking care of that in the coming year.
And I'm not sure if that was just a liability thing for the village, that why those signs were placed, but it's confusing some people on, I can't even walk across to get to Bourbon now.
Okay.
From Main Street.
Or
I agree.
I'll get some clarification.
Yeah.
anything else? All right,
Next meeting is already scheduled for October. I think it's comes out to be like 5th, maybe.
October, what day?
Give me 1 second. It looks like the 6th at 7.
I'm good with that.
That works.
Mhm.
This is 7th, 6th, okay.
okay, so I guess, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Okay.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.